Good afternoon. This is Media Center Ukraine, Odessa. We are starting our working day. We are going to have a kind of a cultural day today. And the first briefing will be with Yaroslav Trofimov, director, playwright, actor, author of the City of Dreams project of Theater Number 7. He is the manager of the theater. Stasya Voloshina, horeography and combat director, actor in the project. And Pavlo Davydov, who is actor from Bakhmut. And we are going to discuss with them the City of Dreams, immersive theatrical performances, and the first theatrical series that they are going to shoot in Odessa in the nearest future. Yaroslav, the floor is yours. Thank you. The performance and the series are connected with each other, but they are not identical. As for the performance, we planned the format before the war, before the full-scale war, but we imagined it a bit different back then. The City of Dreams is the first theatrical series. What is a theatrical series? This is the format when the performance is combined of a number of parts which are related to each other. So this is a series of performances that have in common the same characters, the same story, and the whole big world where the events of the performance take place. So we can compare this with the Harry Potter or the Star Wars, because a lot of professionals call Harry Potter a series, a big series, but anyway, this is the series, so you can watch separate series, which will be of interest to you. But if you watch the whole series from the first to the last part, you will have the big whole story. The same we can say about the City of Dreams. Now we have 3 theatrical parts of around 3-4 hours, so we have a joke that this is similar to a repertoire of any theater if you calculate in hours. So you have 3 parts. The first will be premiered on the Sunday. Yes, and the 4th part will be produced by the end of February, so 3 or 4 hours more. So if we calculate in general, the whole number of hours is now 18 hours. As for our plans, we are going to have around 10 episodes, but perhaps we will stop with 8. We don't know for sure now, because when we start working on the next episode, we can define how much time it will take. And I have forgotten to mention that this is the immersive theatrical performances, and I can briefly say that this is a different type of theater. This is the cooperation and interaction between actors and the audience. The audience is in the same environment with the actors, and they travel all around the venue where the performance takes place. So we have a lot of interesting materials, and that's why we would like to use this material to shoot the theatrical series. We are going to start shooting the next month. We want to bring back a storytelling form that you perhaps have not seen before. But this depends on your taste in movies, for example. So we want to come back to the period in the cinematography history when the cinema was directly related to the theater, when the films were shot as a theatrical performance. For us, but for me, actually, personally, this is the best period in cinematography. There were no series back then, so the series in the new form and the modern series, especially the science fiction series, they have never been related to the theater. So they use the language of special effects, blasts, some long frames with beautiful decorations. So they kind of a visual novella. And this is great because I adore them. Because the latest Ghost in the Shell, the Hollywood version, is great. I like it. So the synopsis takes only the half of A4 page, but it is a pleasure for your eyes. But we're not going to shoot a pleasure for your eyes. So we want to shoot a theatrical drama full of events and private stories of people. And those who likes Asimov, Dick, Shackley, will adore this. And this will be interesting for those people who don't have enough stories in the modern cinematography. So we are not going to compete with the budgets and technologies of Hollywood. There is no sense in this. But we are trying to choose the different environment. We want to attract those people who, after the latest Avatar, says that was beautiful, but there is no story there, because we have the story. If this is a theatrical series, are you going to shoot this in the theater with the audience? This will be shot in the studio, which is identical to the venue that we use for our performances. We will shoot in the black room. So there is an artistic vision that we want to make walls and the background invisible. So I do not want now to make any spoilers, but we have the centralized composition in a black room. So everything is focused around the center. But the shooting will be like it used to be in the past, when there were only practical effects. When there were long takes for around 15 minutes, when the camera just followed the actors and the audience felt as being closer to the actors. So we want to have the minimum of editing within the one scenery. And it is very comfortable for us within this performance because the performance combines the great number of small scenes. So this is the part of the setting. So the audience, together with the actors, just watch or participate in some memories. So you have now 3 or even 4 episodes, theatrical episodes. This is for the people who can come to the theater to watch this. And as for the theatrical series, people can watch this later. Yes, and we will have some episodes shot together with the audience, for sure, because we need this. It is envisaged by the setting. We are planning to have the subscription model. We have the following vision of the process. It is simple by design and difficult in implementation. We plan to sell monthly subscription, or people can buy the whole series. And we are going to have two series produced by month. So we are going to have around 40 series. So you've mentioned 8 or 10 episodes. Yes, but this is for theatrical performances. Because we will have the 40, 45 episodes for the theatrical series, because people, they don't have enough time to watch for several hours. People just have some free time during the week to spend to watch a series. So we are going to have the 4 series. And as for the subscription, we are going to hand over 30% to the armed forces of Ukraine, 30% to the production studio, and 30% to the team and to our actors. So we have the minimum people in our team. This is like costume design, designer, makeup, cameraman, etc. So we are quite ambitious, and we believe that there's people there who miss interesting stories, and that they really exist there, because it is very easy for me to imagine this, because I adored the Chronicles of Embers, and I read all the books of the Chronicles, and I'm interested still in some interesting stories with interesting characters, and I ready actually to spend the whole year to watch this story. And for me, it is more interesting than watching YouTube or modern science fiction series. Yes, they are really beautiful, but there is no interest for me there because I love stories, which they lack. Stasya, you are a choreography and combat director. Yes, sorry, I will speak Russian. I have only started learning Ukrainian recently, and it's difficult for me to speak Ukrainian. Yes, I'm a choreography and combat director. And the format of our performance does not allow us to speak about classic choreography. These are kind of plastic moving decisions, and this is a great difference between dance and the plastic movement. And these allow us to add elements to the action and to the characters. And these allow us to expand the perception of the story and of the performance. So I'm not a choreographer in a classic understanding. I'm more the director of movement plasticity. And of course, we need to supplement the impact of the performance. And of course, we use elements to achieve this. We have some elements of the combat on the stage, and this allows us to explain the story better and add some special effects. But this is the first performance with Yaroslav when we work in detail on the production and on the plasticity. And I believe that this is difficult to perceive the city of dreams without the plasticity. So this is a teamwork of the director and the choreographer. And I would just like to briefly add a few words to explain our story better. We have a character as the solitude of Marilyn. We have one of the main character, Marilyn Sikorsky, which is played by Stasya. And we have 8 more people to play the solitude of Marilyn. This is everything that happens in Marilyn's head. And this solitude coexists with Marilyn on the stage. Sometimes it supplements to what she does and says, but sometimes there is contradiction between the solitude and Marilyn. There is the fight between them. Sometimes the solitude wins over her, changing her decisions, and we have achieved this through the plasticity of movements. And actually, that was my question. So we have the setting for 5 hours, and this is quite much time for the performance, for the play. And so you need some plasticity to make it more lively. Yes, of course. This adds the special effects to our performance, and this actually adds some elements to the drama. Because in drama, we have words that allow them to tell the story. But still, when we use the language of plasticity, you leave more space, more room for the imagination of the audience. And every person can perceive it by their own. And of course, we should speak about a complex actor work. Because it is difficult to use your body, physically use your body for 4 or 5 hours. As for the timing, for the immersive theater, 4 hours is not that much. So this is the basic level. And the city of dreams, when it comes to the theatrical format, in the performance for the beginners who only start learning the immersive theater. I know about the format because we have communicated with you on the topic during COVID. But can you just briefly say what is meant by the immersive theater? But first, I would like to explain about the timing. There is a basic example that I share with our guests of our jazz club, and who say that, wow, 4 or 5 hours, this is too long. But I have a small question to them. How much time do you spend during the concert, jazz concert? So they have the first set, then the break, then cocktails, desserts, the second set, then communication, and before the war, we also used to have the after party. So it's around 6-7 hours. And how much time do you spend during the party at your friends? So I won't believe that this can be only 1 hour or an hour and a half. And now we can come back to the immersive theater. This is a form of life. This is the form of existence. And the immersive theater does not tell the story. It makes you a part of the story. The immersive theater creates a world and allows you to live there. And if we understand this as our life, as existence, then our social life is quite long. We spend around 8 hours at our work, so we are more used to long social existence. That's why the immersive theater offers quite long performances. When you come to a new company of people, you just need around 40 minutes to get adjusted to people, to get acquainted with people, to break the ice, as Americans say. So it takes time. And this leads us to the clear understanding of what is meant by the immersive theater, when you immerse in the narration. And this is the contemporary narrative. Also, it was invented in the 1960s. There are different types of immersions, like reverse narration. Sometimes the audience can be in charge of the events on the stage. Environmental storytelling, when people just explore the environment, they use the objects they find to create some stories. So all this is a part of the immersion. There can be some play mechanisms when the audience, can be in charge of the interrogation. Thank you. I would also like to give floor to Pavlo now, who, as far as I understand, this is the first time for him to have such experience. I play a 20-year-old Theodor Almender, and this is a boy who has a very rare disease, and no one believes him, and he can't cure himself, and he suffers a lot, and he tries to live in the world where no one believes him, where no one wants to communicate with him, to talk with him. This is a very deep character. And perhaps people in our theater, our audience, will find something in common with this boy. There will be a lot of the story twists in our performance. The great diversity of characters. We don't have only drama characters, but we have some funny ones as well, not only dramatic. So we have great range of these characters. In this your first theatrical experience, yes, how did you prepare to the role? How much time did it take? First, I prepared to casting, and then I started a very difficult work with my role. So I did it at home during, for example, some dinner, when you just sit and think what your character would do in your shoes. So you try to embody yourself in this character. And this is really very interesting for me and a very interesting first experience. And I would like to add a few words about our actors. The practice of theatrical series is a completely new experience even for the professional actors. When you work in a classic theater, you just play a role for 2 hours, and the next day you have the next performance with a different role, and you have just to readjust yourself to different roles during one day or during 1 week. The theatrical series allows you to live with own character, and at the beginning of the full-scale war, and even actually starting from the third day of the full-scale invasion, we discussed this. And actually, we were in one room, and because we gave our theater to volunteers, but it took us several weeks to discuss all the characters after the start of the full-scale war. And you just live with your character for quite a long period of time. And you not only live with your character, but you grow up and develop with this character. You find some new details of your character. Sometimes you can notice that even after you leave your theater, you are still your character, because you know that you will come back to your character the next day. And from the actor point of view, it allows you to immerse so deeply in your character, which is impossible in the classic theater. The format of a theatrical series is a new page of theatrical art, and we believe that other theaters will love it when they see it. It allows us to ensure the full reality. It is fully realistic when you are not limited with 2 hours. And the arc in classic theater is about 15 minutes of existence. In our case, this arc of characters just take around 10, 12 hours. And the character Marilyn starts in the first episode and lasts till the 10th episode. So such person becomes real. And for you, as the viewer, as the spectator, it's easier to perceive this character. This is not grotesque anymore. This is not artificial, just to convey a message to you. Because when it comes to a classic performance, you need to understand everything which is meant by the director. And quite often, characters become functions in a classic theater. This is good, but we don't need this in our case. We have live characters. They react as live people. There is no haste like when it comes to live people. They have time to tell the real story, not limited with 2 hours. And this is quite a cool tool for storytelling. Thank you. And I would later on I will give the opportunity to our colleague to ask the question. Michael Vasura, Newsweek Journal. You mentioned that you've been working on the project for almost a year. How has the war impacted your project, meaning the idea, the story, etc.? This is a very good question. Thank you for it. And we actually have been working on the project not for 1 year, as I said, but for 6 years, because it is impossible to create the universe that can cover 40 series, around 40 hours, is impossible to be developed for 1 year. If I started doing that last year, that would be real. That would not be realistic. And we have had different versions for 6, 12 hours. We had the immersion performance on the abandoned factory, huge abandoned factory, where we just existed in the world, in the university of that factory. But the war has become our 100% catalyst. And this is for the first time in our theater, and our theater has existed for 8 hours. We dedicate 100% of our time to our performance, because the war has deprived us of the audience, has deprived myself from the business. So our theater, our jazz club cannot be called business anymore. So we volunteer a bit, we collect money for air defense system, and we also provide mental support to the residents of Odessa, because we organize the outdoor concerts. That's why we have focused on the implementation of this full-scale project, and I'm not sure that that would be possible if everything was fine in Ukraine. And do we have war narratives in our performance? I can deceive you or tell the truth. If I deceive you, I then can say that, yes, we have these war narratives. But if to be true, our performance envisaged everything. Our basic scenario that we tried and experimented with several years ago weren't about the war, because in our city of dreams there is a thing called an invisible war. So the invisible war that is there, but a country says that there is no war. And if a person says that there is still war there, the person just disappears. So the invisible war is just one of the topic. And I cannot tell you who started this, because that would be a spoiler. But we had it there before the full-scale war. But the leading topic is not about the war. This is about the preconditions, but not about the war itself. This performance is about what we can expect from the future, and about the biggest civilization horror. This is about what escapism can do to the world, and the desire to live in the past. And that would not be a spoiler. The whole performance is about this. What happens if the whole humanity chooses to live in the sweet dreams, the ideology that it used to be better in the past, that it should not be there. Yes, we have some new quotations in our war. We have some micro characters there, like Petra Martic, who is a volunteer, and she has been supplying the armed forces on the front line. And actually, she has the same disease as the boy that we've already mentioned. And she has the same dream all the time, that she is in a collapsed building, and she cannot get out of the rebel because of the shelling. And through the small window, she can see what's happening outside. And so these are new elements of our performance. But in general, the story existed long before the start of the full-scale war. And we tried to warn the audience about the war and to speak about the threat. Thank you. Just a small clarification, Andrienko, seeing the Media Center, Ukraine, Odessa. Can you tell us where we can watch the performance? So we are going to have it in theater number 7, Perron number 7, during 3 Sundays in a row. The open time is 6:30, and people should be ready that it will end at 10 p.m. because the immersion depends on the audience, and the audience can set the pace. We cannot influence this. We have still several empty seats, and this is the very small performance that we can have only 30-35 spectators and around 12 actors. I'm not sure that we'll be able to show the first parts in the nearest future again, because we will be more focused on the shooting. And but you will be able to watch it if you subscribe to this. I understand that it won't work in Ukraine because people are ready to donate $10 for drones, and we will donate only $3 out of these 10 that people can spend for ticket. And our aim now is to reach the foreign audience and the Ukrainian audience, which is now lives abroad. And we will also have the subtitles. And if we see that people who don't speak Ukrainian love it, and they still speak English, we will just redo this in English to cover the bigger audience, larger audience, because I believe that this story is important. But it's actually very interesting because it is entertaining, but it is important. Thank you. Thank you for your story. Hopefully you will find your audience both in Ukraine and abroad. That would be great. Thank you for the briefing. If our journalists want to get contacts of the creators of this performance, the Media Center will be more than happy to share the contact details with you. And we believe that this is a very important performance. We are going to have our next briefing in half an hour. It will be dedicated to the topic, why children holidays are necessary during the war. Our guests are already here, so stay tuned. Thank you. Thank you.